The honor of introducing you guys to Gigi Peterkin. I met her in blog chat. She was lurking. Lurking means you kind of admit you're actually looking at the hashtag, but you're not quite sure you want to dip your toe out there. And I drew her out the conversation. She's amazingly intelligent. She promised me she would keep her sweary mouth down for this crowd. Hoping that promise true. She just left Edelman Digital as a VP of Health, now has her own business, and I'm going to let her talk about it here in a second.
Thank you very much. So thanks to Mila and Joseph for asking me to present today. And while I'm usually the one up here doing the health presentation, we're going to go a little bit broader. And I want to talk to you guys about online communities. And I really want to talk about, you know, the build of them. There's an entire other discipline of community management that I'm not even going to try to touch inside of 10 minutes, let alone with 6 slides. So putting that aside, recognizing that it's huge, and once you build a community, you need to cultivate it, we're going to focus on the build. So if we can go to the next slide. I did the obligatory stats and figures. You guys have been sitting for a long time. Sometimes data helps anchor things in your head. And also, it's like, yes, we should all be online, but let's look at some numbers behind who's online. And the first number comes from Pew, the Internet and American Life Project, which is actually really cool for inside the US stats. And half of the adult population is now participating in an online community. So at some point for your business, for your personal brand, you're probably going to want to set that up because, as we've heard earlier, know your audience, know where they are, and go there. There's really 2 perspectives, of course, for this, the customer and the client. And I want to get so these come from Peter Kollik, a lot of these terms, for why people participate. And for your customers, you know, they have a few things they want to get from it. Anticipated reciprocity is a really long way of saying, if I go into a community and I give you some information that you find valuable, chances are I'm going to get something back, be it your thanks, or be it some information that I need at some point in time. So by providing something of value to you in the community, I'm anticipating that I'm going to get something back of value from this community. Increased rep, we all like our street cred, especially online. You know, how many followers do we have? Clout, yay or nay? Cred, at some point, you know, we're looking to build our reputation online. If I provide something valuable to this community, I'm going to be viewed well in the eyes of this community, and that's going to make me feel good because these guys are my peeps online. And that goes to sense of purpose. Commonality, you know, common interests, just like any community offline draws people online, whether it's coffee or whether it's talking about us guys or talking about blogging in blog chat. You're going to seek other like-minded people. You know, we see it in healthcare when people go online to search for information. We see it in just about every facet. So that's really what your customers are going to be looking for from your community. Now, as a company, when you're talking about selling this, if you're not your own shop and you sort of have to justify this, there's a couple of reasons that people tend to build these communities, and you're probably going to fall into some of these buckets. Customer service. In addition to your community manager, other people in the community are going to answer questions and provide a level of customer service that you may not get from a call center, from one person or a handful of people answering those questions. And that actually also goes over to the save money. Because if you're doing it right, you can save some funds and resources. Your online community can double as your call center, can double as your reporting center for issues, your crisis management, depending on what you decide to set up. You know, again, reputation, research. What better way to crowdsource from your customers than by asking them questions in your community? You know, the days of paying focus groups are pretty much done if you're going to use your online presence well. And you, at some point, are probably going to want to talk about sales. Now, I put this up there because, and we're going to see this later on, don't go into your community to sell to them. That will turn them off. But provide the community with valuable information, be a resource, be a place that they can go to learn about you, your brand, to get information on a topic, and they will evangelize your brand. They will remember, you know, that Charmin is telling me whether or not I need to sit or squat, and they're going to talk about Charmin in a really positive way and become your brand evangelist. So the potential to increase sales is there even without having to roll out that salesy red carpet. So I'm going to talk to you now about these really 5 quick rules now that we've anchored this in some sort of setup. So rule number 1, which is the next slide. There we go. Build for the right reasons. This is Tiger's Nest Monastery in Bhutan, China. It is built on the edge of a cliff 3,000 feet in the air. It is there for one reason only, for Buddhist monks to come and pray and practice Buddhism. It was built for that one single purpose. It's built there because legend has it that the second Buddha flew on the back of a winged tiger and meditated in one of the caves where this monastery is now built. So it's got a couple things going for it. It's got a great story behind it. It's got a legend. It has a narrative. It's built for a single purpose. And it might be hard to get to. It's sort of, reminded me of these regulated industries that say, well, we can't build a community. We can't act the way we need to. It's too hard to get to. It's too hard to do. This thing's 3,000 feet up in the air, and monks still come every year to pray, and it's closed to tourists. Its only purpose that it exists is for Buddhist monks to come and have a place to practice Buddhism. So they built it for that reason. They kept it for that reason. They anchored inside of a single purpose, and they stayed true to the needs of that community. And this thing was built in 1692. So they've never wavered on their purpose. They knew why they were built. And if we go to the next slide, they've been very transparent about that. So that's rule number 2. Be transparent about why you're there. If you're there to talk about a brand and to have branded conversations, let people know. Don't tell them it's one thing and then sort of sneak something else in that's going to undermine your credibility and forget about ever getting street cred. Hang out a welcome sign. Tell people what they can expect to find when they walk through the door, and then deliver on that consistently. You're going to have very happy community members. You're going to have a very happy community manager who, as they cultivate this community, has a much easier job than if they're doing a bait and switch. If we want to go to the next slide, rule number 3, join the community or don't. But be clear about that purpose going in. Are you going to have people from your business acting as members of the community, tweeting as members of the community, making posts as members of the community? That's great. But this goes back to transparency. Be clear that they're acting as agents of the community. No clandestine operations. This isn't Black Ops. This isn't, James Bond. And hold the community members to the same standards. If you are practicing this, then have that expectation for your community members that they're not going to come in for a clandestine reason and do something underhanded. And if you see that happening, again, the community manager, this big purpose who's over here, give them the freedom and the guardrails to correct that and to say, hey guys, a reminder, this community is here for X. This is our purpose. Please act in accordance with that purpose. Rule number 4, and my favorite one, don't be an asshat. Okay? Asshat is one of my favorite words. I've been encouraged to trademark it, although Matt Collier and I are now in a debate over who used the word asshat first. Nobody wants to be this guy. This is the guy who invites his friends out to lunch and spends the time telling them how great he is and what his greatness can do for them. Don't do that for your community. Don't invite them in. Don't get them to trust you and then, try to sell them on my brand X. Hey, you've got a problem over there? I have brand X and it's the best brand X and it is going to save all your problems and come on in and buy it and da-da-da-da. That's the asshat approach. Don't do it. It's a really easy thing to do. If you have the instinct to do that, do a George Costanza and do the opposite. It's very easy to avoid that behavior once you become aware of it. I'm on a speed thing here to try and catch up. And rule number 5, please, remain true to your stakeholders. Okay, that's a picture of my kids, and I really love that picture, and I think they're stinking cute, so I had to put it in here. But I also was following on live stream, I guess about 2 weeks ago, SobCon. And at one point, one of the participants stood up and said that her kids were her first stakeholders, and that every decision she makes, she either checks with them or she knows would be something that they could live with and they could buy into. So know who your stakeholders are and rank them in order of importance. Who are your top stakeholders? Is it going to be the boss? Is it going to be sales? Is it going to be marketing? Is it going to be your community? And are you acting in a way that will allow you to remain true to those number one stakeholders? Can you hold your head up high at the end of the day and say, my community is still standing by a single purpose and it has truth for its stakeholders? So that is a whirlwind tour of 5 very simple rules that, as you think about, I need to reach over half the adult population online, I need to reach this audience, I want to build a community. This is just something to get you started and get you grounded as you do that. So thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you.